Psalm 24. Lift up your heads, you gates. Rise up, ancient doors, then the King of glory will come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, you gates. Rise up, ancient doors, then the King of glory will come in. Who is he, this King of glory? The Lord of armies. He is the King of glory. And tonight I wanted to start with the end. I know, plot twist. But everything that we're doing, everything that we talk about, everything that we do on the daily, all kind of culminates with this, right? That it's all unto seeing this King of glory receive more glory, that it's about these ancient gates flinging wide. It says rise up gates. Like there's not enough space for the glory of the Lord to enter in. It actually has to rise up so that more of the glory of the Lord can come in. And so everything we talk about tonight, I just want to have that perspective in mind. This is for our King of glory. We get to know this King of glory. And we're still asking, who is he? And we will spend eternity trying to figure that out. Everything in Jesus' life pointed to glory to the Father. He kept saying this. I'm doing this so that the Son can bring glory to the Father. It's time for me to be glorified so that I can bring glory to the Father. And so can we just keep that at the forefront of our minds tonight? Glory to the Father. Glory to the Son. Glory to the Father.
Glory to the Son.
Period. Okay, very good. Okay, so we're going to be in Psalm 24 if you want to flip there. Guys, I love this psalm. It's so good. It starts good. It ends good. It's good in the middle. It's good all the way through. But the first little picture we get in this psalm is that the earth and everything in it, all its inhabitants, belong to the Lord. What? What do you mean? That's crazy. This is our God, high and lofty, seated on the throne, as we see in Isaiah 6. He's standing from age to age. He is all powerful. He's dwelling in this unapproachable light. And yet he's calling us to come to him. What? That doesn't make sense. Guys, this God is so unreachable by every standard. And if you're looking at this, and if I'm looking at my life, I'm thinking, I can't go up there. I can't go up to this King of glory. What do you mean? Psalm 15 says, who can dwell with the Lord on his holy hill? Nobody. That's the answer. And so we have this kind of response of Isaiah 6, right? Genuine in your heart. Woe is me. And it's really hard to say that without sounding really dramatic, but actually, I can't be up there with this God. But then, in this depth of despair, it's boom, the one with clean hands and a pure heart. And you're like, all right, sweet, cool, good. Let me go work on my clean hands and my pure heart. But actually, the next line is what jumped out, and if I could say the Bible slapped me in the face, that's probably what it did. But it says, such is a generation of those who inquire of him, who seek the face of the God of Jacob. And I don't know about y'all, but my first question is, why the God of Jacob? That's kind of weird, right? It's usually the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. That's kind of how we know this title. But it's just the God of Jacob. And so I looked it up. And this title only appears 6 times in the Bible, and every time it's in the Psalms. And so my next question, rightfully so probably, was why Jacob? We know what he became, right? Nation of Israel, all that amazing stuff, the source of kind of how we got here today. But if you look at his life, this guy was the worst. He was a schemer. He was a liar. He was a thief. He straight up stole his brother's blessing. Like, that's kind of boo. So he steals this blessing, and then he runs away for years, and he doesn't see his brother. And so this isn't necessarily somebody that we would look at, right, and be like, oh, this is how we want to identify our God. This guy who kind of just sucks. But he's great, okay? But then God still chooses him, still renames him, still calls him Israel, and is still so good to cover all of these mistakes that he made, and still makes him into the nation of Israel, even though we can clearly see he didn't deserve it. It was God's goodness that did that. So if we flip over to Genesis 32, yeah, we're flipping a bit tonight. We see in verse 9 that this is, well, you don't see it's the second time, but I'm telling you, it's the second time. But this is the second time in his story that he prays to the God of Abraham and to the God of Isaac, which I think is so fascinating because he knows this God by the people that have gone before him. And he's only praying to him because he's scared, because he's going to see his brother, and his brother wants to kill him because the whole stealing the blessing thing. But he prays to this God of Abraham and to the God of Isaac. And then that night, the angel comes and wrestles him. We're familiar with the story, right? But in this wrestling, he doesn't just inherit this promise from Abraham and from Isaac. He actually wrestles for it and makes it his own. The God of covenant, the God of generations, gave this same promise to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. You can go look it up. It's, I will make you a father of many nations. These descendants will come from you, and you will bless the nations. God specifically gives this promise to all three of them. But you see that Abraham was the first generation. He's the first one that got the promise, right? He's the first one that left his father's house and everything that he owns. And he kind of stepped out in this like, oh, I don't really know what's happening, but God said go, so I'm going to go. Isaac, the second generation, you'd call him the protector generation, right? He saw his dad step out. He saw kind of like some crazy stuff that they had to do, and he carried the promise. And then Jacob was the third generation. He was the one that could squander the promise, that could say, we just had this in our family this whole time. It's just kind of a given. But he actually was the one that needed to wrestle for this until it marked him for life. Quite literally. The angel knocked out his hip. And then his whole life, he has to go with this reminder of actually wrestling with God and actually having this blessing become his own, having his name changed. And now this is the way that everyone identifies him, as Israel. So now you're probably thinking like, oh, the first, second gen thing, that's pretty cool, right? This is very smart, AB. It's from a podcast. But I would highly recommend you listen to it. It's called The Most Important Mindset You'll Need to Succeed by Craig Rochelle. And he's breaking down generations within organizations and kind of the rise and the fall of them. And actually, a lot of times things won't make it past the third generation, because the third generation is the one that's like, we have all of the blessing and all of the fruit and didn't have to do any of the work, and so we can do what we want. But in this moment, God actually cements this promise. And now we can be here in the room today because that happened. And so we're so connected to this story because this third generation decided to wrestle. Well, God decided he would wrestle, but the third generation was in there. And so this story isn't just about Jacob, but it's about a generation who has an inherited promise that it's time to step into and to walk into. And so something that I want to present to us today is it's time for our generation to step up. That there's been words, that there's been promises, that there have been things that we've actually inherited from those that have gone before us. But it's our turn to actually take responsibility for the body of Christ, for the Great Commission, and actually own it moving forward. In Jeremiah 6:16, it says, ask about the ancient paths. Ask which way is good. Guys, there are ancient paths of faith that have been walked for generations of people that died so that we could share the good news with others. Like, that's not a light thing. That's not like oh, haha, they died. No. Like, they gave their lives for this so that we can carry it on. And there have been legends throughout history who have known the Lord and walked in obedience. I love looking at Hebrews 11 because that's just like, man, if you want to be inspired, look at Hebrews 11, right? You got by faith Abraham, by faith Moses, by faith all of these people lived insane lives and did crazy things. And then you get to the end of chapter 11 and you're like, oh, wow, okay, that's an option. So in verse 33, they're still like hyping them up. By faith, these people conquered kingdoms. They administered justice. They obtained promises. They shut the mouths of lions. They quenched the raging fire. Like, this stuff is crazy. And then others were imprisoned. They were mocked. They were scourged. Is that how you say that? That's a weird word. They were sawed in half. For the sake of the gospel, they were literally sawed in two. And then my favorite line is next, Hebrews 12:1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by this great cloud of witnesses to the life of faith, run with endurance. And while Lakin and I were staffing Word by Heart on location, we were in like the Philippian church, which was crazy. But God kind of gave me this picture of this great cloud of witnesses. And it was like this big stadium setup. And you could see all of these faces. And it was like they handed me a baton and then stepped back and just started cheering. And in that moment, it was like, man, it became so real. That these people who were mocked and beaten and scourged and all of this, they laid their lives down in their race. They ran with everything that they had. And then they put the baton into my hand. And the baton, let me tell you, is not just in my hand, it's in our hand. And so who could be part of this great cloud of witnesses? Because it's not just the people in the Bible that ran with endurance, though many of them did, thank God. Today in class, we were talking about Hudson Taylor. This man laid his life down. It was 54 years in China. He gave up what was comfortable to him. He gave up his normal way of dressing and of approaching life so that these Chinese people could have the gospel. Count Zinzendorf, we love that guy. He was the father of the Moravian revival. We're familiar, right? Something he said was, I have but one passion. It is he and he alone. The world is the field, and the field is the world. There was some ownership that Count Zinzendorf had of this promise that the gospel would go out to every people and tribe and nation and language. This man started a 110-year prayer meeting that sent countless people out to the unreached. Guys, people sold themselves into slavery so that they could preach the gospel more effectively with the people around them. That's not just like, oh, this is nice, lovely. I'll go and sing my 2 fast songs and my 3 slow songs at church. No, these people were committed. There was an ownership in their hearts of a promise that people would know God. Lauren Cunningham. Need I say more? This man's obedience is the reason why we are gathered in this room today. Because one man said yes to God. And then God changed the course of the future because of it. These people finished their race. They put a baton into your hand. And so now what are you going to do with it? Are you just going to hold on to it? Just sit there? You're going to run with endurance. It's not just a little sprint. Like, this is endurance. This is putting in the hard yards to go until the end of our race. Because it's not just about us. It's not just about the baton that we're carrying right now. It's knowing that somebody passed us this baton and knowing that we're going to pass it on to the next generation too. And so can we set them up for success by giving everything that we have in our race? Because I am not a runner. I will tell you that. Nope, absolutely not. But what I've seen in a relay race is that if you are half-heartedly running, then you're actually messing up everybody that's going to go ahead of you, and there's no chance of winning that race. It's not just about the moment that we're in. It's about those that went before us that ran with everything that they had. It's about us running with everything that we have so that we can hand off the baton to the next one. That the gospel can actually go as far as everyone, basically. It's everyone, really. And with these people, with Count Zinzendorf and with Lauren Cunningham, we honor them in their obedience so much. It was never just about one person. It was about what their yes meant to a generation. And so we personally need a vision that stretches so far beyond our own lifetimes. Josh used to talk about all the time living for a generation that will never meet, knowing that the choices that you make today could have an impact on somebody 50 years into the future, and you might never meet them, and you might never know. But when you live with this integrity of walking in what God called you to, you're actually setting them up for success. Because our lives aren't just about us. God brings us so much transformation, and it's a beautiful thing, and he meets us in amazing ways, and it's never meant to stop with us. As I was looking into some stats and whatnot, just about upcoming generations, guys, we have an opportunity to be the wildest, most fearless missionaries in history. This younger generation is wired for justice, for immediate action, and generally just global awareness. We know what's happening everywhere all the time. Thank you, TikTok. But if we don't have this foundation of the word to guide us, we'll waste time building our own towers of achievement rather than towers to this King of Glory that we're talking about. We're also the closest that we have ever been to seeing the Bible translated into every language on earth. Guys, that's attainable. Within our lifetime, we can do that. We can be the generation that sees everyone have a Bible in their mother tongue. But is this something that we ourselves are going to burn for? Or we're going to say, oh, somebody else has got it, actually, surely. There's thousands of volunteers within YWAM. There's other people that care about the Bible. Surely they'll take care of it. Why wouldn't we want to be a part of something like that? That's making history. That someone can actually meet and know God for who he is in their own language. Know that God cares about the language that they have been spoken to since they were born. That's something that we can be a part of. There's so many different aspects to Bible translation. It's not just the actual translation. So if there's one thing to burn for, please, Bible translation. It's so important. But even looking at this mission that we're in, whether you're full-time in YWAM or you're not, you're in this room. And so you're part of the story. But with YWAM, we have the vision of the waves, right? Who can tell me what's the vision of the waves? You all should be able to. Yeah, the waves of young people, every nation to every nation. That was kind of pathetic. But in this vision, there's a second wave, right? There's a second wave that's even bigger and stretches farther than the last one did. And I think we're still waiting on that second wave. That there's actually a wave of young people waiting to be released into what it is God has called them to, and they just don't even know it. Are we going to take ownership of them knowing it? knowing the call of God on their lives. That's so much bigger than they could imagine. Prayer. Prayer is a huge word globally to YWAM right now. It has been so central to YWAM Furnace and who we are for so long, but are we taking ownership of prayer? Are we actually taking our own time to hear God and to intercede, or is it just we'll pull up on Wednesday night and say, sweet, cool, we get to pray for this thing now. Never would have prayed for that myself. It's okay, sometimes that happens. But we're called to expand our prayer base. That's not just in corporate times. That's individually. That's something God has convicted me about recently, is my prayer base ain't that big. Like, it's there, but I need to take greater ownership of it. But guys, we can be part of what God wants to do in this day and age. Whether it's in YWAM long term or not, it doesn't matter. Because every time we say yes to God, that's got eternal ramifications. There's no way that time spent on like the kingdom of heaven coming to earth is ever a waste. And let me just tell you this, if you're worried about time, if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time to be a nurse or something smart like that. If you're scared of running out of time, the time will pass anyway. Please be released from that you can say yes to God and it doesn't ever put you behind anything, because time spent with God has never been a waste. Could never be a waste. Our obedience is the key. That's all that matters, is obedience to God and what he's calling us to. But with this big picture vision, we don't just catch it by accident. You don't just wake up one day and it's like, whoo, vision, love it. But it's actually created in the small daily choices that we make. Laughed at my own notes. It said, vision beyond your lifetime comes from FaceTime with the big man. Whoa. 'Tis true. In Psalm 24, we see it. Who can ascend this mountain? The one with clean hands, the one with a pure heart, who doesn't appeal to what is false or sworn deceitfully. If you try to get there without God, that's just striving. That doesn't really work. To just decide, oh, I'm going to have a pure heart. That only comes with time with God. And we only get there through our commitment to the fear of the Lord and being rooted in his word. Charles Spurgeon, in a commentary on this psalm, said, to desire communion with God is a purifying thing. Oh, to hunger and thirst more and more after a clear vision of the face of God. And as this is not the usual desire of mankind, they constitute a generation by themselves, a people despised of men, but loved of God. Even the desire to know God more purifies us. It makes us more whole. And so to encourage you, if you're like, man, I feel so far away from the holiness that is God. We are, first of all, but even the desire to know God more makes us more like him, because that then opens the door that he can come in and he can meet with us. As we behold him, we become more like him. And we become a little bit more odd in the eyes of the world. It's weird, to be honest, to so many people that we spend hours in prayer and intercession and worship. Other people look at that like that's crazy, and it kind of is. But every time we make that choice of God, I want to see you more than I want to see what's in front of me, we're becoming a little bit more like God, getting a little bit more of his heart and burning a little bit more for that big vision that he has been carrying since the beginning of time, of reconciling people back to himself. Hebrews 4:12, the word of God is alive and powerful. It's sharper than the sharpest two-edged sword, cutting between soul and spirit, between bone and marrow. As we spend time in the word, we're getting to be more like God. Because you know what? It'll show you. It'll show you what's in your heart. Romans 12:2, don't be conformed to this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. If our vision is only what we see in front of us, that's not actually a God vision. God vision is impossible for us to do. It's kind of overwhelming. But we're transformed day by day in choosing God and choosing to see things the way that he sees them. The word is what keeps us rooted and grounded in his character. And we cannot attempt to carry a huge vision on excitement or on zeal. Because zeal always has an expiry date. There always comes a time where you run out of zeal. And so there's always going to be an end unless it's sustained by the author of life himself. And so in this vision, in what God has spoken to YWAM, to the body of Christ, in the Great Commission, it's our turn to own that. There's an anointing that predates us, and it goes so far before our own lifetime. And guys, can I just say that as Gen Z, as a younger generation, we're kind of obsessed with individuality, of wanting to be our own people, to make our own impact, to follow our own plans and visions. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. God has given you dreams that are on your heart. Please carry those dreams, steward them. But as a younger generation, we've got to see the bigger picture of what our lives are feeding into and the impact that it can have on a generation. In Deuteronomy, it says that one person can put 1,000 to flight. 2 people can put 10,000 to flight. And so why are we set on dying on this hill of our own vision? If it furthers the kingdom of God, shouldn't we be more committed to the 10,000 in the moment? Or to whatever God has asked us to do, as opposed to our own ministry preference? And what I'm not saying is that God hasn't given you your own vision. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is sometimes we have to put this vision into God's hands, knowing, oh, I don't have a team around me. I'm kind of just carrying this alone. God, I will give you this, but then I will use my gifts and use my talents to come alongside another vision to see this massive impact for the kingdom. We could all go out. We could all be having our own 1,000 person vision. But like kingdom math, y'all. 2 people together, 10,000. Imagine 3 people. 4, 5, you don't know. Yeah. Can we commit to being a generation of deep obedience? That regardless of the question, our answer is always, here I am, God, send me. Not just send me if it's what I prefer to do. Guys, preferences will get you. Let me tell you, they got me. So, we could just laugh at it. It's true, okay? We all have preferences of a lot of things. But when we choose to serve another vision that's not necessarily ours, you'll find that God actually refines who you are and your own vision so much because of humility. Because in the upside down kingdom, that's actually how we grow into who we are, is just being willing with whatever God puts in front of us. I think an awesome example is Ethan. We were talking about him in class today too. It was a good time. But Ethan's got this huge heart for the Aboriginal community in Australia. Like, this guy's burning for it. But then what God spoke to him was actually that it's Pacific Islanders that are going to unlock something for this Aboriginal community in Australia. And so he laid down his own vision and his own preference of going and serving in these communities to then say yes to God, pioneer a base, and train these people to then go and fulfill this vision that God gave him. And so there's going to be so many more people that get to go and get to serve this vision because Ethan was obedient and willing to lay it down to pick up what God had put in front of him. And I understand, okay? I get it. You could say that I discipled Jonah, really, in wanting to run away. If we existed at the same time, gave him my notes. There were so many times that I tried to run away from New Zealand. Like, I'm telling y'all, every time I got to the end of a visa, I was like, right, it is the word of the Lord. I'm moving on. And God said, sit down. You're not. But there was something in my heart that I didn't want to relinquish this vision that I was carrying, because I was like, oh, but it's from God. But God spoke to me to go and do this thing. And you know what? God did give me this vision. My heart still burns for a lot of things that I'm not currently working with. But then it's up to me to steward that vision, because it's better to be obedient to what God said than to go and try to make something happen myself. It left me with a question. Will I sacrifice obedience to God on the altar of selfish ambition? Will I sacrifice obedience to God on the altar of selfish ambition? Because on the surface, it didn't look like selfish ambition. It's like, oh, I want to go do ministry. I have this burning heart for my own people. But actually, that was just what I wanted to do at that time. That's not what God spoke to do. And we can run into three kind of things when it comes to this selfish ambition. There's completely ignoring and just being like, nope, I will build my own Tower of Babel, thank you. There's, I know what God said, but to be honest, I'd rather do something else. And there's, I actually don't know what God is saying and I'm freaking out. In that one, what's the last thing God said to you? If he hasn't said to move, we don't move. And we stay until he says something else. And so I think a lot of worry, a lot of fear, a lot of confusion could actually be solved by that, by going back to the last thing God said and seeing it through. As young people, we so badly want to make an impact. But we have to recognize that history is made time and time again by people who obey God in the little things until God opens the floodgates of heaven. Guys, I don't know about you. I want to see a revival in my lifetime. I want to see people who maybe have gotten dry in their hearts or don't really love it as much. I want to see them come back to life and realize who this God is, who this King of glory is that we've been invited to live with and to know and to ascend his holy hill. I want to see people that have never known God before have a 180 change, live on fire for God, knowing his goodness, knowing his restoration, knowing that he has a plan for their lives. Guys, this is something we could see. This is something we can work towards. And even if we don't see it, so what? If revival happens the day after I die, awesome. God, thank you for moving. I'll cheer them on from the great cloud. Just it's got to be a vision that's bigger than just our own lives, than just our own preference. This isn't just about maintaining YWAM. It's not just about having people in seats for YWAM Furnace. This is about responding to God in the moment that we're in. If God says go to Japan, we go to Japan. If God says stay in New Zealand, we stay in New Zealand. If God gives you a burning heart for Nigeria, but calls you to Brazil, pray. It's actually up to us to steward these things that God has given us to burn for. And it's knowing the difference of God has called me to do this, and he's called me to carry this in my heart. So bring good mentors and people around you that will straighten you out. Thank God they didn't let me run away. But let's be people who are wholehearted about what God places in front of us and never neglect the place of prayer. That is the most powerful place that we could be. Because you know what? I could go out evangelizing. I could talk to maybe 5 people. And then a little introvert heart is so tired. But I could do that. Or I could pray. and say, God, will you give other people this burning heart so that these people can know you? And imagine 50 people are just like, we just have to share Jesus with people. Your prayer actually can do that. And sometimes you are the answer to your own prayer. Be willing to do that. But also it's recognizing the power, mega quotes, the power that we have versus the power that God has. And so as a mission, YWAM right now is in a period of transition. We know that, right? But this isn't our time to just sit back and be passive inheritors of this mission. It's actually our time to step up and take real ownership of what it will be. Can't just hope somebody else will figure it out. We have to have a personal stake in this. We're kind of Gen 3 of YWAM. There's a generation of the pioneers. The ones that were like, whoa, we got crazy word of the Lord and absolutely no foundation whatsoever, let's go. And they saw some crazy stuff. There's a generation that kind of walked with all these founders, that have seen firsthand a lot of their stories or have known them closely. But guys, we're not gonna meet Lauren Cunningham on this side of eternity. We're kind of a third generation here. And so this is when it kind of make or breaks. And it's not like the pressure of, oh, we have to figure out YWAM, but it's actually, God, you spoke words to this mission that we have not seen fulfilled yet. And so we're gonna take ownership of it, make it our own vision, and say, God, I'm so willing to lay down my life to see this second wave of young people know you and walk in obedience to you. These people that have gone before us have handed us the baton. So now what are we gonna do with it? We have to foster a resilience in our hearts, just like Jacob did, where we refuse to let go of God until we see the things that God promised. Lauren Cunningham may have had this original vision of the waves, but we have a chance to own it now. Just like Abraham had this vision, but Jacob became the nation of Israel. He became this fulfillment of it. Will we step up and take ownership of a legacy left in our hands and be bold in our obedience? Not just maintaining our mission, not to squander it, but to actually have bold, audacious dreams and do things in new ways with God. Because the beauty of being this third generation is that we have so much history behind us. We have so much that we can learn from. We have the values. The values are a beautiful thing, and values matter. But this first generation didn't have the values. We have this richness of YWAM that we can then build off of, and that we can dream for the future and do wild new ministries. This great cloud of witnesses is watching. They're looking to us to finish what they started. We have to be people that run with endurance. And some of us in this room are called to be in YWAM for the long term. I recognize it now. Some of us, maybe it's only a short time. But what is God asking you to do right now with this baton in your hand? You might be scared of being in here in the long term. Not so much anymore. But actually, guys, there has to be this generation that says, you know what? 20 years from now, I'm in the room. 30 years from now, I'm in the room. 40 years from now, I'm in the room. We can't let this fear of falling behind other people or falling behind where we're supposed to be actually keep us from following what God has called us to do. We have a mission. Guys, the Great Commission exists. Whether you're in this room or somewhere else, this is the mission that really should be shaping our lives. If God's called you to be a teacher, then teach with this heart of the Great Commission. Make disciples as you're teaching. If God has called you to be in this room, lay down your preferences and be in this room. Because it's always worthwhile to say yes to Jesus. Like, you can never go wrong with that. Can we all just stand together? I really feel what Cassie was saying before of just doing business with God tonight. That this isn't just like a hype moment of like, yeah, put the shoes in the air, even though that is amazing. Smelly, but amazing. But it's not just about a moment of excitement or emotion or saying like, oh yeah, Camp High, that was awesome. And then tomorrow you just go about your life the way it was before. That's not what this is meant to be. This is actually having this reckoning with God. Maybe some of you have been in a wrestle. Maybe some of you know that you're called and you're scared to say yes. That's okay. You know, you can do things scared. And it doesn't actually take anything away from doing it. But I think we'll just take a moment, just a moment to be quiet with God. And actually be honest. Ask God, have I been trying to run away from something you call me to? Have I just absolutely known what you called me to and said no? But can we just take a moment to be quiet before the Lord? Yeah, guys, this evening, can we just do some business with God? And the thing about when God speaks is there has to be kind of a step that goes with it. For some of you, maybe it's coming up to the front to acknowledge, God, you have spoken to me, and I'm going to step out of my comfort and actually physically move forward. For some of you, maybe it is your shoes in the air. To say, God, I'll go anywhere, or I'll stay anywhere, wherever it is you called me. For some of you, maybe it's an actual verbal commitment. God, I will stay here in New Zealand as long as you have called me to, and put all my other dreams on the shelf, carry them in prayer, but commit to what you're doing in this nation. But let's not let this moment pass us by. That this could be a stake in the ground moment. That 30 years from now, you can look back and say, man, that random Monday night in O2 Church, I actually made a commitment to God, and I walked with that for 30 years. And it's not a scary thing to say yes to God. In some ways, yeah, because you're giving up control. Because you're actually taking your preferences and you're taking what you want to happen and you're laying it down. But I guarantee that there will be nothing better than a life of obedience to God. A life of radical obedience. To say, God, I don't care what it is you've called me to. As long as I can do it with you, I'm satisfied. And so we're just going to leave some space. Whatever it looks like for you to respond to God, then do that. This isn't about the person on either side of you. But guys, let's be active in our obedience. To hear a word of the Lord and then do something because of it. And so God, we just say, yes. God, that there is nothing greater than the ability to see you on your holy hill. That you've called us to come up here. God, that no matter what, we want to be so committed to you, so committed to the words that you have spoken, God. We want to take ownership of this vision and of these dreams that you have given, God. And we want to see your kingdom come on earth. God, that it would be on earth as it is in heaven. God, that you would receive glory in every moment of every day, God, in our big choices and our small choices, that you would be glorified. And so, God, help our hearts to burn like Count Zinzendorf's, like Lauren Cunningham's. They've gone, they've run their race, and now it's our turn. We say, God, we just want to see you move. That there's no greater aspiration in life than that. So yeah, I encourage you guys, whatever it looks like for you to respond in this moment, just feels like a holy moment. So don't let it pass you by.